A 21-year-old girl got off a plane smiling, and within weeks, she was locked in a room for 16 hours a day, too scared to even wave at a neighbor. Tonight's true crime story is one of the wildest ones I have ever told. A famous fashion model, a very strange brush with Leonardo DiCaprio, 2.5 million Instagram followers, and a luxury Texas mansion that hid something a lot of people are still trying to forget. And while I take you down this rabbit hole, I'm going to be putting together this LEGO Speed Champions Ferrari F40 Kit 76934. 318 pieces of pure red Italian glory. So grab a snack, get comfortable, and stick with me, because this one is one you're going to want to hear all the way till the end. Alright, Ferrari Lego pieces are out of the bag. Let's get into it. To understand how Kat Torres became one of the most disturbing figures in modern true crime, you've got to go all the way back to the beginning. Because Kat Torres did not come out of the womb a master manipulator. When Kat Torres was just 4 years old, her grandmother took her to visit a local medium, pretty much a fortune teller. And this medium took one look at this little girl and said something that would burn itself into Kat Torres for the rest of her life. She said, "This child is special. This child is destined for greater things." Kat Torres never forgot that, not for a single day. By the time Kat Torres was 7, she was competing in beauty pageants. By the time she was a teenager, her family had figured out that the little girl with the camera-ready face could be the family's whole financial future. So they pushed her hard. By 15, she was modeling professionally in Rio. By 17, she was flying around the world. By 20, she had been crowned a beauty queen. And by 21, Kat Torres had signed with one of the biggest modeling agencies on planet Earth and was living full-time in Paris. From the outside looking in, Kat Torres had the kind of life people write songs about. Designer clothes, penthouse apartments, magazine covers, the kind of life where you wake up in a different country every Tuesday and nobody questions why. But there's one thing about the life that magazines never put on the cover. Kat Torres had been, by her own account, deeply hurt as a child. The kind of hurt that doesn't just go away because somebody puts you on a runway. And underneath the flawless model exterior, there was a young woman who was running. Eventually, no matter how fast you go, life is going to make you stop. And it stopped Kat Torres at a film festival in 2013. Because at this festival, in front of all the cameras in the world, Kat Torres was photographed standing very, very close to a certain Hollywood megastar. We're talking about Leonardo DiCaprio. Just the two of them smiling, laughing, and the second those photos hit the internet, the world went absolutely insane. Within hours, every gossip magazine on the planet was running the same headline. Leonardo DiCaprio's new mystery girlfriend. Who is she? Where did she come from? And just like that, an unknown 21-year-old model from Brazil became the most talked about woman of the week. Kat Torres rode that wave for everything it was worth. She did interviews, she hinted, she winked, she smiled for the camera. She let the whole world believe whatever the world wanted to believe. And eventually, Leonardo DiCaprio himself had to come out and clarify something kind of awkward. He didn't actually know her. They had never dated, they had barely even spoken together. But here's the thing about fame. By the time the truth came out, it didn't matter, because the world already knew the name Kat Torres. Her Instagram had exploded. Her followers were now in the millions. And Kat Torres had just learned the single most dangerous lesson of her entire life. That if you tell people what they want to believe, they'll believe it, even when it's not true. Now, after the Leonardo DiCaprio moment, Kat Torres tried for years to break into Hollywood as an actress. And it just never happened. The auditions didn't land, the roles didn't come. And by 2015, when Kat Torres was 23 years old, her whole shiny world started cracking, opening at the seams. First, Kat Torres lost her mother to cancer, suddenly, without warning. Her mother had been the rock of her entire life, and one day, that rock was just gone. Then, while Kat Torres was back home in Brazil grieving, she found out that she had a serious infection. Doctors had to perform major surgery, and the recovery from that surgery effectively ended her modeling career. Then a wealthy benefactor who had been quietly funding her lifestyle, a man so powerful and so secretive that nobody to this day even knows his name, lost interest and walked away. Kat Torres tried to open up to her own sister about something painful from her childhood, but her sister didn't believe her. Within about a year, Kat Torres lost her mom, her career, her money, and her family's trust. And in that void, in that silence, in that complete and total free fall, Kat Torres did something that would set the rest of this true crime story into motion. Kat Torres went to a Los Angeles community that practiced ceremonies with a powerful Amazonian psychedelic plant brew. And Kat Torres did not just try it once. Kat Torres started drinking it every single month for years. And during these long, hours-long altered states, Kat Torres started to have what she described as experiences. She said that she could speak to her dead mother. She said she could speak to spirits. She said she could speak to Jesus himself. And the longer this went on, the more Kat Torres came back to that sentence the medium had told her so long ago. You are special. You are destined for greater things. Except now, Kat Torres was no longer interpreting that as you'll be a model. Now Kat Torres was interpreting that as something much more. Now Kat Torres truly believed in the very core of her being that she had a divine mission on earth. And that right there, that is the moment when the woman walked off the runway and the figure of the center of this true crime story began to take her place. In 2016, Kat Torres started a YouTube channel, and then a website, and then a self-help business. She started charging hundreds of dollars for one-on-one spiritual coaching sessions. She wrote a book. She launched a clothing line. She sold courses on how to be rich, how to become happy, how to become spiritually awakened, how to become her. And here's the part that made her so dangerous. Kat Torres was good at it. She was really good at it. And she had this whole rags to riches story she could lean on. She would film herself in beautiful apartments, wearing beautiful clothes, dropping inspirational quotes about manifesting your dream life. And tens of thousands of women all over Brazil and all over Latin America watched these videos and thought to themselves, if a poor girl from Belém could do this, I could do this. And if I just give Kat Torres my money, she will show me how. But Kat Torres built an audience of more than 1 million devoted followers, mostly young women, many of them poor, many of them lonely, many of them in difficult situations looking desperately for somebody to believe in. And Kat Torres gave them somebody to believe in. The problem was the person she gave them to believe in didn't actually exist. Because behind the camera, Kat Torres' life was nothing like she sold to her followers. Her marriage to her first husband collapsed. Friends started describing her as cold, narcissistic, and impossible to be around. Her behavior online started getting strange, and then one day, Kat Torres made a post that would change the lives of 4 young women forever. Kat Torres announced she was hiring a personal assistant. The first young woman to answer the call was a 20-year-old girl named Ana. Ana was a Brazilian college student studying in Boston. Ana had been following Kat Torres for years. Ana had just escaped a really painful relationship and was looking for something, anything, to feel hopeful about. So when Ana saw that her hero, the great Kat Torres, was hiring, Ana sent in her application immediately. And out of all the applicants in the world, Kat Torres picked Ana. Ana packed up her life and said goodbye to school and moved to New York City to live in Kat Torres' apartment. The job was supposed to be a normal personal assistant stuff. Emails, errands, scheduling. But the second Ana walked through the front door of that apartment, she knew something was very wrong. Because the apartment that Kat Torres showed off on Instagram, clean, glamorous, sun-drenched, perfect, was not the apartment Ana was standing in. The apartment Ana was standing in was filthy. The dishes hadn't been done in weeks. There were 8 animals roaming around, nowhere to relieve themselves except the floor. The smell hit her before the sight did, and Kat Torres herself, the goddess of Anna's Instagram feed, was in the middle of all of it. Anna told herself she could handle it. Anna was wrong. For the next 3 months, Anna basically became Kat Torres' shadow. She wasn't allowed to leave Kat Torres alone, not in the apartment, not on errands, not even in the bathroom. Kat Torres could not stand to be by herself, even for a few minutes. Anna scrubbed floors, Anna emptied trash, Anna cooked, Anna cleaned, and Anna got paid exactly $0. Not $2,000 a month, 0. Whenever Anna asked about the money, Kat Torres got super aggressive, so Anna stopped asking. Eventually, after 3 months of this, Anna found her courage and she got out. Anna escaped. And as terrible as Anna's experience was, Anna had no idea, none, that she had gotten off easy, because the worst was still coming. And it was coming for 3 other young women who hadn't even met Kat Torres yet. By 2022, Kat Torres and her new young husband had moved into a 5-bedroom mansion in Texas. And once again, Kat Torres needed someone to do everything for her. Except this time, one assistant wasn't going to cut it. So Kat Torres went on Instagram and she made a series of videos that on the surface sounded like a real opportunity. Come live with me. Come work with me. I'll mentor you. I'll teach you. I'll turn you into the next big influencer. Just pack a bag and come to Texas. And 3 young women answered. The first was a young woman in her early 20s we'll call Soul. Soul had a really difficult life. She had spent time in shelters. She had spent time on the streets. She had only just started to find some footing. And Soul was already a paying client of Kat Torres. So when Kat Torres reached out to her personally and offered her a job, Soul thought she had been chosen. The second was Letitia, the 21-year-old we met at the very beginning of this story. Letitia had been following Kat Torres since she was 13 years old. 8 years. Half her life. Letitia had even talked to her parents into paying for a one-on-one session with Kat Torres back when Letitia was a teenager. And the second Kat Torres said the word, Letitia quit her job and got on a plane. And the third was a woman named Desiree. Desiree was 26 years old, living in Germany, and one day during one of her paid coaching sessions with Kat Torres did something extraordinary. Kat Torres started crying. She told Desiree that her own mental health was crumbling. Kat Torres told Desiree, please, I need you. You're the only one who can save me. Desiree dropped her entire life in Europe and got on the next flight to Texas. And so by early 2022, all 3 of the young women, Soul, Letitia, and Desiree, were standing in the foyer of the 5-bedroom Texas mansion, suitcases at their feet, looking at the woman they had idolized for years. They were all hopeful. They were all about to discover nothing was as they thought it was. For the first few days, it almost felt fun. Strange, but fun. Kat Torres made the 3 young women dye their hair blonde so they would all look like her. Kat Torres took photos of the 4 of them and posted them on her Instagram, calling them her clan. There was a special room in the house full of candles and altars where Kat Torres said she performed rituals. And the 3 young women who had been told their whole lives that this woman had access to higher powers just nodded along and went with it. But then the rules started. First came Kat Torres called the law of silence. The 3 young women were no longer allowed to speak to one another at all. They could be in the same kitchen doing the same dishes, and they were not allowed to make eye contact, much less have a conversation. Then came the rule about the bedrooms. Soul, Letitia, and Desiree were locked in their bedrooms most of every single day. They were only let out when there was a chore to do: cook, clean, scrub, serve. Then came the rule about the outside world. The 3 young women were not allowed to leave the house without Kat Torres' permission. Not allowed to talk to neighbors, not allowed to wave at neighbors, not even allowed to acknowledge that the neighbor even existed. The neighbors started to notice. The neighbors started to whisper. The neighbors started using a word they did not use lightly: cult. And then came the rule that broke them. Kat Torres told the three young women that their families, their mothers, their fathers, their siblings, their entire lives back home were toxic, that their families were holding them back, that their families would never understand the special destiny that Kat Torres was preparing them for. And the three young women, completely under her spell, cut off contact with everyone they had ever loved. And just like that, three intelligent, hopeful, ambitious young women had been completely sealed off from the rest of the world, locked inside a house with a woman who had convinced them she was a divine being. For the next several months, the three young women cooked, cleaned, and served. They were never paid a single dime. They were told that if they ever tried to leave, Kat Torres had spiritual powers that could find them anywhere they go on earth. And the women believed her. They had to. There was nothing else left to believe. After 42 days, Sol cracked. Sol had been the most skeptical of the three of them from the very beginning. Sol had quietly figured out this whole operation was a lie. But Sol was terrified to leave because Kat Torres' husband owned a large collection of firearms. He liked to make sure the women saw them. Sol was absolutely convinced that if she tried to walk out that front door, she wouldn't make it to the end of the driveway. But Sol got her hands on a phone. Sol reached out to an ex-boyfriend in another state, and the two of them put together a plan. And one day, while Kat Torres was distracted, Sol walked out that house and never came back. And when Kat Torres realized one of the three chosen had escaped, Kat Torres absolutely lost it. Kat Torres went on Instagram and started posting threats. Threats against Sol, threats against Anna, the original assistant from years before, who hadn't even been part of the Texas situation. Kat Torres started telling her millions of followers to attack these women online. And Kat Torres' followers obliged. Strangers from all over the world started flooding Anna's social media with hate and threats. Anna later said she was having full panic attacks day after day, while a famous influencer with millions of fans openly threatened her life. Meanwhile, back in the Texas mansion, Kat Torres turned her attention to the two young women she still had, Letitia and Desiree. And Kat Torres decided that they were going to start earning her money. Now, this is the part of the true crime story that I'm going to handle very delicately, because it gets dark. Kat Torres started telling the two remaining young women that every successful actress, every famous model, every powerful woman in Hollywood had supposedly started out doing what Kat Torres was now demanding they do, which was essentially sell their bodies for money, which was a complete lie. But it didn't matter, because by this point, Letitia and Desiree had been so isolated, so manipulated, and so brainwashed that they could not even tell up from down. Desiree resisted at first. Desiree said no, so Kat Torres demanded that Desiree pay back every dollar's worth of food and rent that she had supposedly accrued by living in the mansion. Thousands and thousands of dollars Desiree did not have. And then, just to drive the message home, Kat Torres took Desiree to a shooting range with her husband, who put on a little display. The implication was not subtle. Desiree gave in. For months, Desiree was forced to work nights at a local club and hand every single dollar she earned to Kat Torres. Kat Torres set up a profile for both Desiree and Letitia on online platforms and arranged appointments with strangers, wealthy, sometimes dangerous men. The young women had no say in who they met. They had no say in anything. And every single dollar went to Kat Torres. When Desiree finally tried to refuse, when Desiree finally said, "I'm done, I quit, I cannot do this anymore," Kat Torres looked her dead in the eye and told her something genuinely terrifying. Kat Torres told her, "If you walk away from this, I will report you to the police myself. What you're doing is illegal here. You will go to prison. Your family will know everything." And Desiree, completely cornered, kept going. And here's where the universe started to turn against Kat Torres. Because back home in Brazil, Letitia's family hadn't heard from her in months, and Desiree's family hadn't heard from her in months either. And these two families found each other, and they both said Both of our daughters were last in contact with the same person. Both of our daughters told us they were going to live and work for the same famous influencer. And now neither of our daughters will pick up the phone. So the families went public. They put missing person posts all over Brazilian social media. They named Kat Torres, and the story exploded. Brazilian newspapers picked it up. Brazilian television picked it up. A famous Brazilian model named Yasmin Brunet got involved and publicly begged Kat Torres to release the women. And Kat Torres responded the way that she always did, by going on Instagram and lying. Kat Torres claimed the women were perfectly fine. Kat Torres even forced Letitia and Desiree to film their own videos looking into camera with dead eyes, telling the world that everything was great. And then Kat Torres did something that would have been almost funny if it weren't so disturbing. Kat Torres turned around and accused the famous Brazilian model who was trying to help, Yasmin Brunet, of being the real human trafficker. Kat Torres told all of her followers that Yasmin was the kidnapper, that Kat Torres herself was the savior who had rescued the women. And some of her followers actually believed it. But while Kat Torres was busy spinning lies online, the families of the two young women had been digging. They had found the truth about what their daughters were being forced to do. The families took everything to immigration authorities. A warrant was issued, and Kat Torres ran. She loaded up the two young women, got in the vehicle, and started driving from Texas all the way up to the eastern United States, almost 2,000 miles. She made it as far as Maine before law enforcement finally caught up to her on a quiet road. When Letitia and Desiree were brought into a police interview room, they were so deeply broken, so deeply afraid of Kat Torres that they sat there for hours and lied. They repeated word after word the script Kat Torres had drilled into them. Everything is fine. We came here voluntarily. Kat Torres is a wonderful person. Please let us go. But the investigators were patient. The investigators were kind. And after hours and hours, the wall finally cracked. And Letitia and Desiree began to cry, and the truth came pouring out of them like a river. Kat Torres was deported to Brazil to stand trial, and at her trial, she did exactly what she has always done. She lied. She gave a famous televised interview where she looked into the camera and said, "You can see Jesus or you can see the devil. That's it." She insisted she was innocent. She insisted she was the real victim. She insisted that she was the chosen one. The court did not agree. On June 28, 2024, Kat Torres was convicted of human trafficking and slavery. And here's the part that hurts. Kat Torres was sentenced only 8 years in prison. 8 years for the countless other women she scammed and manipulated through her so-called spiritual baths. The judge ordered that Kat Torres be banned from the internet from inside her cell, because the judge understood something the rest of us are still catching up to. Kat Torres is dangerous, not because she is strong. Kat Torres is dangerous because she is good with a camera. And in our world, that is sometimes the same thing as being strong. Today, Letitia and Desiree are slowly putting their lives back together. They are in therapy. They're speaking out. They have both said that they want to use their voices to make sure no other young woman ever falls into a trap like the one Kat Torres built. If this Kat Torres true crime story made your stomach turn, wait until you see the one I covered right before this one. Because at least with Kat Torres, the warning signs were on a public Instagram feed for the whole world to see. The next story, the killer was sitting in the front seat of the car, holding the victim's hand at a birthday party and smiling for the news cameras while the entire country fell for his story. There's a thumbnail on your screen right now. Go click it. You won't believe what was hiding behind that man's face. I'll see you there.